If a power rack is the heart of a home gym, the wrong one is a pacemaker with low battery. Let's make sure this thing keeps the whole setup pumping for years. This countdown goes from solid, budget-friendly picks to the racks that feel dialed in under heavy compound lifts and full cable work. And yeah, there's nuance. Upright gauge, hole spacing, cable carriage design, footplate geometry, even the J-cup vinyl quality matters more than the listing hype suggests. 6. Ultra FUEGO Multifunctional Power Rack. First impression, it's a Swiss Army style rack at a compelling price that tries to do everything: squat, bench, pull-ups, cable attachments, landmine, without tipping over the budget or the floor space. And that's the appeal right there. The footprint is friendly for garage or spare room setups, and the included landmine plus plate storage makes it feel like a complete little training station out of the box. Under moderate loads, basic compounds feel fine, and for newer lifters or compact spaces, that versatility is honestly the main selling point. Now the, well, hold up part. Cable travel and smoothness tend to be the first giveaways on racks in this tier. The pulley alignment and cable sheath tolerance often need a little fiddling, and lubrication plus careful bolt torque helps, but it's not silky out of the box. J-cups on budget combo racks usually have thinner UHMW or a vinyl wrap that scuffs earlier. It won't ruin a knurl, but expect cosmetic marks sooner than on mid-tier racks. And lateral stability without floor anchors can feel twitchy in dynamic pull-ups or rack pulls. Nothing catastrophic, just that subtle sway that makes heavy singles feel less confidence-inspiring until the rack is weighted down with plates or bolted. In daily use, the landmine is the sleeper value. Rows, presses, meadows rows, great carryover on limited time.
5. Mikolo Power Cage. The Mikolo line comes loaded. Lat pull-down, low row, and sometimes independent cable crossover arms depending on the model. So the value per feature is eye-catching, and for most lifters, that's the hook. The frame generally claims high static capacities, and the included attachments mean immediate access to vertical pulls and accessory work without a machine, which is huge in limited rooms. Assembly is straightforward, if slow. Labeling is decent, but plan a patient afternoon with a ratchet and some coffee. Now for the critical bit. Cable carriages in this family vary by batch. Some glide, some chatter, and cable length routing tolerance can leave the last 10% of the stroke feeling a touch sticky. Fixable, but noticeable if picky about cable feel. The safeties are fine for sub-max sets, though the steel gauge and weld cosmetics are a tier down from premium racks. There may be slight flex during heavy rack pulls that isn't unsafe, just perceptible. Plate horns and storage are useful, but close in. If storing lots of 45s, expect some interference with wide stances during lifts unless organized carefully by diameter and side. In workouts, the pulley ratio on the lat side tends to make progressive overload straightforward. Most users sit around mid-stack plus plates for strict form, which is exactly where time under tension feels best.
4. Goimu C1 V4 Power Cage. This is where the frames start feeling denser and less rattly, especially once tightened in a diagonal pattern and leveled. Upright gauge and crossmember fits are more consistent than the starter tier, and it shows under load. The cable system runs cleaner through the top and low stations, with better pulley wheels and slightly tighter tolerances, so rows and face pulls feel more linear and less springy at lockout. The design often includes multiple handle options up top, which makes neutral grip pull-ups friendlier on elbows and shoulders if volume goes up. Real-world note, the footplate angle on the low row is actually usable. Some racks pitch it too upright, but here the heel sits nicely while keeping shins clear of the cable path, which makes temper rows way more pleasant. J-cups and safeties feel more confidence-inspiring, less wiggle when racking a heavy bench, and less clang when the bar taps the safeties during pin work, which helps keep focus during top sets. With plates on the storage pegs, lateral sway basically disappears during kipping or chest-to-bar pull-ups, so dynamic work feels safer.
There's always a quirk. Hole spacing isn't true west side across the entire upright on some versions, so micro height adjustments for bench might land between perfect and almost perfect, solvable with sandwich J-cups or a different bench height if picky.
3. RitFit Power Cage with optional lat pull-down. RitFit's sweet spot is stability per dollar and a cable setup that, honestly, surprises on smoothness once the cables are seated and the bolts are torqued. Lat pull-downs and straight arm pull-downs feel controlled, not jittery. The crossover add-on gives actual unilateral cable lines at workable heights, so flies, single arm rows, and press variations slot in without shifting half the gym around between sets. The attachment catalog is broad: landmine, dip bars, extra pegs, so the rack grows with training phases instead of hitting a ceiling in 3 months. Under the bar, the frame feels stout enough for heavy fives on squat with no distracting side wobble. Safeties catch softly enough that a missed rep doesn't echo through the house, which is good for peace at home. The pull-up bar geometry supports mixed grips, and the coating has that just right texture that doesn't eat hands on volume. Assembly is cleaner than most due to better hardware bagging and labeling. Still a half-day project, but fewer "where does this washer go" moments. Trade-offs. Footprint with the crossover installed extends the operating space, so plan cable work zones carefully to avoid bench collision. Not a deal breaker, just measure the room and the bench travel path first. This one hits a great balance for lifters who want classic barbell progressions plus real cable accessories without hunting for aftermarket parts for months.
2. Jelens Power Cage. Jelens lands in that, this feels premium without a scary price category. Upright rigidity, weld neatness, and carriage glide come together, and it's immediately noticeable on first pull down and first re-rack. The independent cable columns create a truer crossover experience with consistent tension through the midline. Great for chest flies, high-to-low chops, and even assisted single leg work with ankle straps. The pulley ratio is predictable, so programming transfers easily. When a 10-pound plate feels like 10 pounds through the movement, tempo work stays honest. The safeties in J-cups have better protection surfaces. Bar knurl stays cleaner over time, and the racking impact is muted, so heavy benching feels calm and repeatable. Pull-up options include neutral grips, which save elbows during higher frequency phases, and the bar's finish strikes a nice balance between grip and skin-friendly texture. With plate storage loaded, bracing into the rack on heavy squats feels rock solid. No shimmy, no micro sways that throw off the groove. Minor notes: assembly is still a project, and aligning the cable trolleys perfectly takes care. But once dialed, it stays dialed. Fewer retention sessions compared to cheaper stacks. For lifters who want barbell fundamentals plus legit cable variety in one footprint, this checks nearly every box and leaves headroom for strength progression.
JEEKEE Power Cage. This one earns the top slot by feeling like a full training station, not just a rack with accessories, thanks to a sturdier frame, consistent cable travel, and hardware that inspires confidence under heavy barbell sets and precise cable work. Under load, the uprights don't flinch on heavy triples. The safeties catch with minimal bounce, and re-racking is quiet and centered, which sounds small but adds up across hundreds of sessions. The cable crossover operates smoothly through the full arc, so flies and presses keep tension where it should be, and rows don't have that weird dead zone near the stack. Day-to-day, small details feel right. Hole spacing is practical for both squat and bench, the pull-up bar supports varying grips without wrist complaint, and the finish on contact points hold up after repeated rack pulls and pin squats. Plate storage balances the unit so dynamic work, kipping pull-ups, tempo negatives, even banded work doesn't push the rack around, provided the floor is level and the bolts are properly snugged. Let me explain. When a rack disappears under the set, no rattle, no wobble, that frees mental bandwidth to focus on bracing, bar path, and breathing. JEEKEE has that vibe. Any nitpicks? Sure. The full feature configuration takes a bit more space and assembly time, and the price reflects the overall competence, but the training experience here feels closest to a commercial station while staying home friendly. Final call? For a starter with versatility,
Pick Ultra FUEGO and plan to tune the cables and weight the base. For more built-in features at a value, Mikolo gets the nod with patience during setup. Goimu feels like the first real step up in train and forget stability. RitFit balances barbell and cable use smartly. Jelens brings premium glide and rigidity, and JEEKEE is the pick for a long-term home station that feels set from day one.